See. All right. What is going on, everybody, today? Another episode of Amazon Seller News Live. Looks like we've got a bunch of people streaming in already, which is awesome. So anybody out there listening, if you have questions about the news as we go along, throw them in the comments. If you have questions about something not related to the news, you can throw them in there too. And if we have time, we'll get to them. But the news, we will definitely try to pull those in. So appreciate everybody out there. Got my friend Corey Ganim joining us today, as well as Dane and Coleman. So appreciate you guys joining me.
Always good to be here.
Yes, sir. Thank you for having me back.
Absolutely. This is going to be a fun one. We've got some big news today related to some manipulated reviews and some big TikTok news and things like that as well. So
I can't wait to talk about all this review manipulation and stuff like that. That is right in my wheelhouse.
Right here.
Yeah, I was like, I know Dane, and that's his area of expertise. So yeah, I know you'll have a lot to share there.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, for sure. Well, let's go ahead and jump into it right away here. All right. So Amazon shoppers duped by Vivor's manipulated reviews. Sellers demand action. So Shanghai-based, of course, over in China.
Shocker.
Giant Vivor is accused of manipulating Amazon reviews by creating duplicate listings for identical products to hide negative feedback, frustrating competitors and deceiving customers. Despite whistleblower reports detailing over 1,500 instances of such violations, Amazon's response has been vague, leading critics to argue the platform is lenient with Chinese sellers to compete with rivals like Temu and Shein. This manipulation erodes trust in Amazon's marketplace and puts legitimate sellers at a disadvantage, while Vivor reportedly rakes in $500 million annually on the platform.
Jeez.
The incident underscores the need for Amazon to enforce its seller policies and protect marketplace integration. So 500 million, 1,500 complaints that Amazon seems like they're basically ignoring. So yeah, let's throw it right over to you, Dane. What are your thoughts on these review manipulation and basically duplicating listings? When they get bad reviews, they create a new listing so that they can put some fake good reviews on there and keep doing it.
Yeah. So this is nothing new. This is just being done at scale, right? And luckily, there's a whistleblower for this account that's been tracking this brand for a long time and compiling data on them for a very long time, reporting it to Amazon, reporting it to the FTC. And good on you for doing that, whoever you are. I salute you, because that's a lot of work, first of all. And you know, I think we all know that Amazon is hard of hearing.
That's putting it lightly.
Yeah. When it comes to us, and especially what we've seen recently. And Todd, we when we had Riverbend Consulting on, when we had Leslie on, we talked about this. Like, it's a huge, China seems to be a blind spot in the eyes of Amazon, right? And they're just letting them get away with so much shit that we get pummeled for if we even think the wrong thing, because Alexa knows what we're thinking because it's listening all the time, right? And it sucks. It sucks for us because, you know, there's a perfect example right there. There's 3 of the exact same. You know, actually, I think that I have worked with a competitor of theirs, and I remember them complaining about these machines.
Oh yeah.
Like, yes. And I can't remember the details of it, but basically their machine is a legitimate made in Sweden or something like that. And these ones are basically junk. Anyhow,
yeah, you can see how the one on the right is probably the original one with 314 reviews. Then they probably created the one in the middle, which got bad reviews, and then the one on the left, which they probably paid some people to leave some reviews on that one. So it's got good reviews until the real reviews start flooding in.
Yeah, and you think about like just the variance between those three listings there, right? Obviously they're duplicates. Obviously it's all the same product. The one on the far right, I agree, seems to probably be the original listing. And 3.2 out of 5 stars out of 314 ratings is
that's an
terrible.
accomplishment.
That's like they had to go out of their way to be that bad, is the way I see it. So like when you are just blatantly covering up a product that has no business being in anyone's home with by creating a duplicate listing of 4.4 star reviews, right? That's just flat out wrong the way I see it. And obviously why Amazon's cracking down.
Well, but that's the thing. They're not.
Well, right. Yeah.
They're tracking down on us, right? Us American sellers. And I shouldn't even say American sellers. The majority of us legitimate sellers, because you got a lot of sellers that are outside of the U.S. selling in the U.S. that have the same problems that we do. So I shouldn't have said just American sellers. Sellers in America, legitimate sellers. And so, this is, as I said in the beginning, this is not uncommon, not an uncommon tactic. It's just being done at scale with this big brand, right? So, unfortunately it's easy to do. And I think the biggest issue here is that Amazon's turning a blind eye and a deaf ear to us. And we saw this in Amazon Haul, where we had just the most unbelievably blatant violations, patents or trademark violations. Just in searches, I just opened my phone, I search Haul on the app, and then I just started looking at products. I'm like, oh, look, there's the Apple logo. Oh, look, there's apple.com. It's crazy. So, but what to do? I think the only recourse that we are going to have on this is to band together. I think that's the only way that we're going to make any change in this. But then the Chinese government will probably come after us.
Well, one of my questions too is what is the reasoning behind Amazon being so lenient with the Chinese sellers versus legitimate sellers, right? Because I think at this point we all agree it's not like a one-off, oh, this guy got special treatment and he just happens to be out of China. It's a pattern of blatant abuse by Chinese sellers and blatant oversight by Amazon, right? And blatant is the key word here. So what is the reasoning behind that? Is Amazon afraid of upsetting the Chinese government? Is Amazon what is the reason? I can't think of a legitimate reason that the FTC would be okay with. So why is it that they're okay with it?
Well, and that's the thing. Sure. I think, Amazon is so big now that, once a company gets as big as Amazon, they don't really care about their individual customers anymore. They're just looking at the aggregate and trying to do what's best for their stock, essentially. The founder is gone. The founder is the one who cares the most about the business, and the new guy in there, Andrew Jassy, he's going to be focused on the stock price and increasing profits and stuff like that. So if it's not illegal in the United States and the government, more specifically, the government's not coming after it and targeting it, then they're probably not going to really care too much because, they're creating these duplicate listings, but Amazon's still getting their fees and they're still getting paid. And
on every single one of those listings.
Yes, it's harming customers, but they got to weigh that how much money they're making versus what they're losing and hurting their image. Later in the show, we're going to be talking about this news article here. Amazon targets influencer reviews, and they're not doing that out of the goodness of their heart. They're doing that because the government is targeting bad reviews right now,
Yeah.
and they're coming after people who are doing that, and that's the only reason they're paying attention to it.
Yeah.
Well, Todd, you made a great point. You were like, you said like, well, it's not illegal, but then you're like, well, it's not being enforced by the government, right? And I think that's like a key distinction. Amazon and really companies of that size, they do illegal stuff all the time, and they're more than willing to do so. The only time they stop doing so is, like you said, when the government decides, hey, this is now something we're going to look deeper into, or hey, this is something that we're now going to, yeah, exactly. And I think Amazon and their executive team is smart enough to know that, hey, even though this isn't illegal or maybe it's questionable or maybe it's borderline, whenever the government does start to look into it, they have the resources to cover up their tracks and then say, oh, sorry, we didn't realize. And like you said, it's a slap on the wrist. And then they're either right back to doing what they were doing before, or they're right back to doing what they were doing before on a slightly scaled back
That's right.
level, right?
Yeah.
Yep.
And in a less trackable or less locatable.
Yeah, and a slightly less illegal way or something.
Yeah,
like
exactly. Well, I'll tell you, if there's any indication of where Amazon lies on what they care about, they've got their own terms of service, right? Their own community guidelines on what's allowed in reviews and stuff like that, right?
Mm-hmm.
As a seller, you would think, you go, hey, look, this clearly violates that. That doesn't help this. That doesn't help any future buyers make a decision on a product. The whole review system is built to create essentially word of mouth on a product to help other people make a buying decision, right? That is the entire purpose of the review system. So what do? You game it, right? And lots of sellers did that in the beginning by just pumping tons of positive reviews on junk products, right? So 2015, Amazon slaps everyone down for that, removes 47 billion reviews or whatever the number was. It was millions, may have been hundreds of millions. But they've never truly enforced their own policy on this, right? So if Amazon truly cared, Amazon at this point, it's obvious to me that they care about the money, the cash flow coming in, not about the consumer, only to the degree that the cash continues to flow, right? And not about the seller either. And they put out there, oh yeah, 63% of you guys made us who we are today. And then in the background, we all know at the end of that little commercial, they go, and you don't give two shits about us, right? So you look at it, it should be for any seller easy to go, hey, Amazon, here's a review, a negative review on my product. It's not, you got many different scenarios. I could go on for this for a long time. In fact, Todd, maybe I just wrote a blog about this. Maybe I'll give you a link to it and you can see if it makes sense to put this out there. But
yeah, for sure. Throw it in the comments.
Okay, cool. I'll do that in a minute when we move to the next subject. But so the thing is that Amazon will not even enforce their own policy, even when you can prove to them without a shadow of a doubt that there's a violation, right? Which is why I exist in the first place, to help people remove those reviews, because you have to go through unbelievable hoops administratively and time-wise to get that done, right? And it just shouldn't be that way. I shouldn't have to need to exist for sellers.
I was going to say, you shouldn't have a job. Like if Amazon was working properly, you should not, or at least this portion of your services should not exist. But
yeah, exactly.
Like you said, it is the way it is. So
be fired and live on the street. I agree.
no, I didn't mean that.
No, I know. But yeah, and look, when the day that comes, I will be happy because I too am a seller, and I'm right in the trenches with the rest of you guys. And I totally understand why these reviews, I think I'm going a little bit off topic here, but as you can imagine, I'm pretty passionate about this. And this shit right here is exactly what I have to deal with my customers. Is I'm trying to remove negative reviews for somebody that sells a coin sorting device. And here's 3 of the same product, trashing them on sales, like just killing them on sales because they're $100 cheaper and they've got the same 4.5 star rating.
Yeah.
right?
And here's the thing too that drives me crazy, because Amazon's all about the AI right now. It seemingly would be so easy for AI to scan this account and
That's
see
what I
these
use.
3 products are the exact same with the exact same photo. They're not even trying to like hide that it's not the same thing. And
No.
it would be so easy, just like we talked about before, that it would be so easy to detect a hijacker that's jumping on private label listings that have never had a seller before and selling for half the price that the product's ever been sold before.
Yeah.
It's so easy to detect these things that it's obvious that Amazon's not even trying to detect.
Yeah. The data that I have access to detect review violations, violations in the reviews, and to detect fraudulent reviews, which, you know, a lot of people don't think that's possible, but it actually is.
Mhm.
The amount of data that I have access to is probably, if I just had to put a random number on it, this is arbitrary, 1% of what Amazon has access to. If
Right.
I can find fraudulent accounts, aggregate those and send them up to Amazon and say, here's proof of fraud. You know, first of all, I'm trying to get the reviews removed by those accounts, but ideally I get those accounts banned, right? And it definitely has happened before. But if I can detect this stuff, you sure as hell Amazon can and should be, because the way I see it is, if I can remove those reviews for my clients, then not only does it help the client, it helps the potential buyer to get a better overall picture of that product, and it helps Amazon because they are representing that product in the truest sense of of people's opinion of it, right? It's a win-win situation, and again, I shouldn't have to exist for this, but it is what it is.
Yeah. It's not good, that's for sure. And it's just decreasing the quality of the way people see Amazon.
Yeah.
Right. The perception of the company and the perception of the integrity of the marketplace too, right? Because if once customers catch wind of this type of stuff happening, it's not just a certain product or a certain brand that they're turned off to. It's the marketplace as a whole, right? Because they're like, well, hey, how am I to know if what I'm buying here is legitimate, or if these reviews that I'm reading are legitimate? There really is no way to know. So yeah, it undermines trust in the whole experience.
Yep.
Yeah,
For sure.
Well, hopefully, somebody sees this story. This is on the New York Post, which is relatively big news organization. So if it gains traction, Amazon doesn't necessarily like bad press, and it might attract the attention of some politicians that put more heat on them. So we'll see what happens. But it's one of those things, and unless they decide to get serious on it, it's just going to be like whack-a-mole. Basically, they're just going to keep popping up, and one after the other. Unfortunately,
assuming Amazon whacks anything,
right? Yeah, because sometimes they don't do anything, like you said.
Yeah.
Well, and that'll be the interesting thing to see is how this goes with Trump coming in there. Because obviously he is, wanting to crack down, especially on China and things like that. So we'll see. Maybe they'll react to something there. There's going to be more traction, I think, in this area in the next 4 years than there's been in the past.
Yeah.
So we'll have to see. All right. Well, let's jump on to the next one. Some more very big news here. So scroll up. TikTok on the verge of ban after losing in court. A DC Circuit Court of Appeals unanimously ruled that a law requiring TikTok's Chinese parent company ByteDance to divest the app or face a U.S. ban is constitutional. Citing national security risks tied to data collection and algorithm manipulation, the ruling supports the January 19th deadline, just before President-elect Donald Trump's inauguration, though Trump's stance on banning TikTok has shifted, creating uncertainty. While TikTok argues the ban threatens free speech for its 170 million U.S. users, the court emphasizes that the law is narrowly tailored to protect national security. The decision may still be appealed to the Supreme Court, leaving Amazon sellers who rely on TikTok for marketing in a state of limbo. So might be one of the biggest pieces of news this past week because it was questionable whether it was going to be ruled constitutional or not.
Mm-hmm.
And the lower court has ruled that it's constitutional. It could be appealed to the Supreme Court, and I would guess it probably will be. The question would be whether that gets taken up before January 19th or not, because that's just over a month away here.
Yep.
Well, one of the things that I think is interesting from what you read there, and I didn't even realize this, but 170 million active US users, that is, I think, literally 50% of the US population. So when you've got an app that is essentially at this point woven into the culture of 50% of Americans, I just think it would be a very unpopular, when it comes to public opinion, move to ban the app. Now, I get the national security consequences. I understand what's at stake here, but I do think that there's going to be a lot of pressure from the public to not have this ban go through. But at the end of the day, I think it will probably end up in the Supreme Court, and we're going to have to see what they think about it. But what are y'all's thoughts on it? I am curious as to, because I'm not as educated on the TikTok side. I post there, but I don't consume there at all. So I'm not as well versed as some people probably are when it comes to the situation.
That's why you have so much time on your hands.
yeah, I don't spend a second on TikTok, and I'm proud to say that.
Me neither.
Same, actually. Yeah, I will say that I'm no expert as well. I just, I seem to recall this happening with another product at one point, and it just another app at one point, and it just got figured out, and I think that's what's going to happen with this.
I agree completely.
Yeah, I don't think TikTok's going away, because if they have to, they'll just figure it out. No one's going to let a multi-$100 billion thing just die.
Yeah.
Right.
If it does just die, if they do just let it die, then we know for sure that it was a Chinese op from the Chinese government. But otherwise, money talks, as they say.
Yeah.
And if the ban comes, which this does have bipartisan support, the bill that originally banned TikTok was not one-sided, Republicans or Democrats. It was both voting for it. So
which makes me think there's more data on this than we would ever even know about.
Right.
If you're getting bipartisan support on this, then there's probably information that we don't know about. And look, having been to China, I think lots of people will say this. When you go to mainland China, you can feel the difference between here and there, right? Just in society, you can feel it. And there are cameras absolutely everywhere, and they are tracking you everywhere you go, every single car. Just like we've got here, at least in Florida, we've got toll roads that you can take, and it just takes a picture of your license plate and then and the front as well, by the way. And it sends you a bill, right? But they're tracking, where's that car now? Where's that car now? Where's that car now? And they do the same thing, I think, with their society. And so we all know that the CCP has different political leanings than much of the rest of the world, right? Not to get into politics here, but if everyone has a social score, right? And there is a reason that they banned Google there, is because Google, forget about Alphabet being whatever evil corporation it is today and stuff like that. But Google is a source of open and free information, right? And if the CCP cannot direct the general consensus of population, then perhaps they don't want it. Also, look at what happened in Hong Kong, right? Hong Kong was under the rule of, it was the UK, right? Yeah, I'm pretty sure it was the UK for 99 years or something like that. And then that lease on Hong Kong went out, and it went back under the ownership of mainland China, of the CCP. And then the CCP decided after many years, okay, we're coming in and we're making changes, and they rebelled over there. And so people disappeared, and people were shot, and people were killed, and there were marches on the street, holding Trump flags and stuff like that, basically saying, Trump, come save us. But, that was all squashed hardcore. So if the CCP has access to all of our data, and like you said, Corey, half of America is using this.
Right.
Well, you can build models off of everyone that is in those videos, and then you can build a social score on that, and then they know this is marketing, right? Like, this is government-sized marketing.
Right.
And how do you take over a population? You make them dumb. You feed them whatever you want to feed them, and then the net result is whatever it is. I won't go into that, but if you can remove access to information and to truth, and you feed other data that isn't true, well, you can control a population, or at least start to control a population.
Yep.
So that's a real danger, and it's been done before, right? In some people are still alive today where that was done in Nazi Germany, right? That was done with marketing.
And it's, they're definitely doing that kind of thing on TikTok, it seems, from the available information. It's very obvious the difference between TikTok in the US and the TikTok in China. The TikTok in China, depending on the age of the user, they're showing like strictly educational things, and I
didn't even realize that. I didn't realize that. Well, it makes sense that there's two different versions, essentially the US version and the Chinese version. So that makes a lot more sense as to why there's been as much pushback as there has been from the government. And so essentially you're saying, because again, I'm not as educated on the topic as I should be, but essentially the Chinese government can alter the algorithm of the app that we have here in the US to maybe subtly insert certain pieces of propaganda here and there that obviously at scale can have a very large effect on our population and our views towards things. So,
and look, it's been done before with when Twitter was when X was Twitter.
Yep.
It's been done.
They were doing it for sure. Facebook's doing it. The difference between TikTok and say X
is that it's China doing it instead of us doing it.
We can't hold China up to our laws, right?
Right.
I mean, we can Trump's going to try to do that with tariffs and stuff, so it's indirect.
Yeah, well, that's a bullying technique to like, if you don't play ball, then we're not playing ball either.
Right.
Exactly. Where at least the U.S. companies, they can be sued here in the U.S. And taken to the Supreme Court and everything else. There's a path towards going at them, where with TikTok, there really isn't any. And, I've seen articles in the past as well, like with the TikTok app on your phone, I think especially on Android, even when you weren't using the TikTok app, it was tracking things that you were doing on your phone and sending all that information back to China.
Yeah. Long time ago, shortly after the first ban went in, I took a look at the terms of service on there, and I'm no lawyer and I don't speak Latin or Greek and all the stuff that's in contracts. However, I'm not all that dumb either. And it basically said, we have access to the data in your phone. Like the US, some US government websites, if you go onto the website, there's a box that you check that says, hey, listen, you're on this site. And if you're on the site, we can track your computer.
Yeah.
And it basically says, we have access to all the data on your computer if you're using this website, and you can't go move forward unless you do that. And so, what are you going to do if you have to file your taxes? But it's the same thing. Like, that's why I deleted TikTok from my device in its entirety, because of the clauses that I was reading that basically said, we have access to all your pictures and all the content in those pictures and the locations, and we do face tracking and your bank accounts. And, it didn't say that, but it did basically
probably
say,
does, though.
Yeah. In no uncertain terms, it was very loose in that it could be understood. We have access to everything in your phone. right? And it's very easy to write something like that in a legal sense, to be targeting a single area with where it's written and how it's structured, but written loosely enough to basically mean I could mean whatever the hell I want to mean here.
Yeah. Yeah. And to be fair, I think that's probably in most apps.
It is
download. But again, here, the big problem is where the data is
where the data is going.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yep.
And that's what they want ByteDance to essentially do, is keep all the data here in the USA. At this point, originally they just they were talking about, bringing all the data on servers in the US. This bill passed and basically forces them to sell it. So that'll be the interesting thing, is if they do sell it, who's going to buy it?
I'll buy it for $1.
TikTok, for example, this year I read did $50 billion in sales through TikTok Shop. So, I mean, that's not a small number.
No.
So if Amazon buys it or some other company buys it, now TikTok did say that they're not going to give anyone the algorithm. So you're kind of starting from scratch. You still have the audience that you can use, but you're going to have to re-update the app with a new algorithm. So the question will be whether another company can do that fast enough and good enough to not lose all of their customers somewhere else. But, that's a lot of money that someone could be acquiring, and that'll be a battle for who buys it.
Yeah.
Amazon, I think, is on the top of the list for me, but Facebook definitely could be in the battle. Some, like BlackRock, a BlackRock type of company, like that's, just aggregating companies and stuff like that, investments and such.
Yep.
So that's going to be very interesting if the forced sale or shutdown does happen and they do decide to sell, who's going to buy it.
Well, I didn't realize that, as if, I guess, ByteDance came out and said, well, hey, if we're forced to sell, we're not revealing the algorithm. And I mean, obviously that is what makes TikTok. So
yeah,
obviously an Amazon or a Facebook or a BlackRock, they would probably want to buy TikTok regardless. And price is probably not as big of an issue, but yeah, the algorithm is a lot of what they would be buying. So I just, would they not be forced to give that up as part of the sale, or is that something that they've dug their heels in and said, you can do whatever you want to us, but we're not doing revealing the algorithm?
Yeah, that's basically what they said. Originally, they said they would just shut it down, but then I think it kind of changed to that we would not reveal the algorithm no matter what.
It makes sense. They probably use that algorithm on their own citizens.
Yeah, that's true.
Well,
yeah,
that's the thing. If they are spying, right, they're definitely not going to want to reveal the algorithm.
Exactly. I mean, if that does, like, if they are essentially saying, hey, you can buy it, but we're not going to give you everything that makes it work, or we're going to shut it down, like, okay, sure, it's because you're hiding stuff, right? Now, if someone did buy it and they didn't get the algorithm, then technically what we have is a full reset of the gold rush of TikTok, which technically it's still in a gold rush, but we have a full reset, only they've got 150 million users already. Yep. And if you are able to
rehack the algorithm, I guess.
Exactly.
The new algorithm. That's a great point. I did not think about it that way, but it's almost like, and sorry to cut you off, but it's almost like exactly what you said, taking the gold rush that TikTok has been over the last 2 or 3 years, rewinding 2 or 3 more years, and almost giving a lot of people a fresh start.
Yeah.
And which I think is going to mean the people that, again, if this does happen, obviously this is speculation, but the people who are currently successful on TikTok and who have quote unquote hacked the algorithm to get engagement and grow their audiences and whatnot, a lot of those people are not going to last. And I think that's going to also bring a brand new crop and a brand new wave of people who are going to learn this new algorithm and master this new algorithm and build their audience in a way that maybe they couldn't with the current algorithm, for example.
Yeah. But at the same time, I think whoever buys it would also pull in those top influencers and say, okay, what were you doing?
It would be smart. Yeah. It would be smart of
them to do that. Yeah, for sure. Yeah. But no matter what, let's just say that someone did buy it. They did pull in those people. Well, now you have private users, so they're not part of the company. And what would make sense? Well, actually, they'd probably put them under NDA and non-competes and just bring them on as staff, right? But technically, what you would get is a group of people that are not part of the company that know exactly how the algorithm works because they help them build it. So
that's a great point as well.
Yeah. Now we have course creators on TikTok.
Yeah, right.
It's going to be really interesting to watch to see what happens because, like I said, it's only less than a month, right? The 19th, it's the 13th today. So
that's a very, very short amount of time for a corporations as large as this to move.
Yeah.
Right.
But the good thing is, TikTok has been around a while now. So the algorithm, I'm positive there's people that have already figured out how to replicate the algorithm for the most part. And when it comes to social media, eyeballs is really what matters.
Mm-hmm.
And so if they still have the traffic and they switch the algorithm out, even if it's not perfect, not as good as the one currently, the people are still going to be going there for the most part. And they're going to keep a lot of that traffic. Now, there might be some that hear, everything that's going on and they switch to something else. But I don't really know what you switch to. Maybe Instagram, but that it's still not really the same.
Right.
Facebook is doing some stupid things to try to be like TikTok a little bit, which is annoying because I don't go to Facebook to try to be on TikTok. I go to Facebook to post.
Hell, LinkedIn's doing it too.
Yeah.
Yep. Everyone's really doing it. I mean, everyone seems to be doing it.
I mean, this is a classic case of where did our audience go and why did they go there? Cool, let's do that too.
Right. Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah, it's really annoying. They're ruining Facebook by doing some of that stuff. But yeah, I don't know where they would go. There's not really anything big that they could switch over to easily. Maybe YouTube Shorts and Instagram combination, but nothing is good. So if a company buys it, figures it out, 60, 70% of the way there and then keeps tweaking it, I think most people will just stay there and keep using TikTok unless some other random thing pops up, which, in tech, that's going to happen eventually. At some point, people will move on from TikTok to something else.
Yeah. I was just going to say, hey, listeners, look out for the Todd, Corey, Danon Flickety Flack coming out soon to you, January 19th.
Yes.
I'd love to see Elon buy it. I mean, I don't know if he could afford it after buying Twitter, but I'm sure he could pull something off. And I feel like if anyone were to buy it, he'd be my personal top choice of who I would want to buy it because
I'm with you on that.
I trust him more than Andy Jassy, to be completely honest with you, or Mark Zuckerberg.
Sure.
So
yeah, I think Amazon would ruin it over time.
I hate to say it, I think they would too.
Yeah, for sure.
Amazon's just not a social.
But I don't think he'll do it. But it was kind of funny when MSNBC came up for sale and Elon posted that meme with like resisting. I must resist temptation.
Yeah, that is good.
How funny would that be? People would just freak.
Oh yeah, people would lose it. People would absolutely lose it. Their heads would explode.
You know what I find odd is that, and Todd, you would know better than me on this, but I don't see a lot of speculation out there on who's actually going to do it. I don't see anything in terms of offers. We're 20 days away.
Yeah.
30 days away. Where's the media on this?
I'm just waiting for a big story to break.
What's going on behind the scenes?
That's true.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's what that means to me. If they're not talking about it, something's going on.
Mm-hmm.
Right. There's a reason why they're not talking about it. And I'm sure there's a ton of backroom dealings going on right now. I'm just waiting for that news story to break because we know we'll see something where it's like, Amazon offers $100 billion for TikTok or something like that. Like that first news story is going to break whenever it does. And then we're going to see, Facebook counters at 110 or, and I feel like it's just going to take that one story or that one leak to happen. Yeah. And that's going to set off the firestorm of either everybody speculating about who's doing what or actual offers being made and moves being made more in public as opposed to behind closed doors.
We're going to see a post. Xi Jinping is now the vice president of the United States.
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah, well, everybody was kind of waiting for this court date to come and go, which it has. This story is from December 6th. So it's been 7 days now since this happened. So I would expect any time now we should be hearing a lot more about it. Maybe next week we'll be talking about the bidding war that's going on.
Right.
But we'll see. That I know the Shark Tank guy, Kevin O'Leary, was talking about being in the bidding for it. So we'll see.
I love him.
What happens.
I think he's great.
Yeah, he would be a cool guy to buy it as well. But all right, let's go ahead and jump on to the next story here. So Amazon targets influencer reviews on TikTok, YouTube, and Instagram. Amazon is investigating influencer-driven product reviews by sending questionnaires to reviewers about their work on TikTok, YouTube, and Instagram. This move aligns with increased scrutiny from the Federal Trade Commission. Aligns exactly with what we were talking about. They're bowing to pressure from the government, which recently banned paid reviews and empowered itself to penalize violators. The initiative highlights Amazon's crackdown on review manipulation, especially during the competitive holiday season, as sellers risk account suspensions for non-compliance. For Amazon sellers, choosing influencers carefully and ensuring proper disclosure of affiliations is now more critical than ever. So essentially, Amazon reaching out to influencers on TikTok, YouTube, and Instagram to find out if they are getting paid for their positive reviews of products.
Yeah. So, yes, that definitely happens. 100%. To what degree, though, I don't know. So I've been paid to do a video for a product, a Chinese electric bike, and by an American company, but in Irvine, California, but clearly not an American company, just by how their contract looks and how they communicate and stuff like that. But mine was more of an influence. It's a features and benefits video, right? So I think it's a fine line. It is a fine line, and it's probably just the words that are used in the video that make it go from a features and benefits or an unboxing video that you've been paid to do and an honest review video, right? If you start out your video with, this is my honest review about blah, 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 right? But you've been paid to do a review, you are obviously biased, right? Now, if you've been paid to do a features and benefits video, that is different than doing an honest review video, right? So, I mean, I can see if Amazon goes after these people that are doing these review videos, I'd like to know what exactly are they looking for, and are those videos showing up on Amazon as an influencer video? And then they're going after those people through their YouTube and TikTok and stuff accounts as well, or what? Like what? I read this article and I don't see any. I see a lack of evidence on this.
It does seem to leave a lot up to Amazon's interpretation, or really just it just leaves a lot up to interpretation of, well, what constitutes not necessarily a paid review versus an unpaid review, but what constitutes a paid review that's biased and then doesn't disclose the bias, right? And it's kind of like in terms of like the lack of transparency around what Amazon actually means here, it's kind of like the recent updates to the bundle policy where they came out with that gift basket exception for any products that Amazon deems gift worthy, right? It's kind of up to Amazon's interpretation which of these new gift box bundles actually are legitimate. And so the point that I made in my newsletter this week is I'm not willing to create a bundle that I have to leave up to Amazon's interpretation as to whether or not they think this is enough of a gift basket. And it's kind of like the same thing here, right? It's like, well, if Amazon doesn't give black and white, I guess, information on what they're looking for and what they're looking to crack down on, how can you know? Right. And are you willing to leave that up to their interpretation? Personally, I'm not.
Yeah. I actually know the person that wrote this article, and he's an interesting guy. I like him, but he's always looking like, what's the story here? What's the story here? What's the story here? Right. And I like that Chris commented, Chris McCabe from e-commerce.
He was featured in the first article too. I
That's
was
right.
like, damn, he's getting featured in everything.
Nice.
Yeah, well, the thing is that he worked at Amazon for 5+ years in their issue resolution area.
Yep.
And so he really knows this stuff. At this point, that's why he has an agency that helps people, because nobody knows it out there. Well, I shouldn't say nobody. Very few people know what to do and what to tell Amazon to handle issues as well as he does. Right.
Right.
But going back to this article, I don't see Amazon taking any action against these people. And Chris has never heard of anyone getting that. I'm semi on the influencer lines for Amazon Influence. I've never heard this come up in any of the groups that I'm in. I'm not saying it's not true, but what's Amazon going to do about this if they send a questionnaire? This is not some legal subpoena or something like that. It doesn't even say whether anyone answered the questionnaire.
Mm-hmm.
I don't see this going much of anywhere, to be perfectly honest.
Yeah, I'm not sure what Amazon can do here without running in violation of the First Amendment.
Mm-hmm.
Because these people are sharing opinions on YouTube, Facebook, wherever. Yeah, maybe they're getting the product for free or they're getting paid to do a review. But still, I guess the only thing you could crack down on is if they replied to the survey and said, yeah, they paid me and I only gave a positive review because they paid me or something. You'd have to
incriminate yourself. Yeah. Well, and that's the thing is it's not illegal to not disclose an affiliate relationship as far as I know. It's just, I think most people would probably argue not very ethical.
I think it is now, actually, Corey. There's something now where if you have if there's a monetary exchange,
mm-hmm.
I think you have to disclose it now. And you know what? That would be a very interesting thing to actually find out. While you guys chat about that, I'm gonna just see if I can find the link on that.
Yeah. I think that was a part of the recent crackdown that the FCC put out, and that was included in there about disclosing if you're being paid for a review or given a free product or something like that. So that may be what they're going after. But what they have to figure out is not only did the person making the video get paid to make the review, did the company that's selling the product do the paying and require them to do a positive review?
Right. I think that's the bigger issue. And at least I like to think, obviously this isn't the case. I like to think that most companies are honest and wouldn't do that. But we all know that I'm sure that happens. It's just the burden of proof is going to be very difficult to obtain without somebody either just completely incriminating themselves or some sort of whistleblower coming forward, which this doesn't seem like one of those situations that would necessitate a whistleblower like this. Obviously it's becoming a bigger issue, but I also don't see companies just blatantly incriminating themselves either. So I'd be curious to see kind of how this plays out, especially after the holiday season, when obviously this has a much more drastic effect, because like the article said, it's like, well, a lot of times these arrangements are getting discovered well after the fact, well after the promotion has done really well and sold a bunch of products and the company made their money. So then even like what action is there to be taken after the fact? Not a whole lot, really.
Yeah. And I could even see, TikTok, YouTube, and Instagram like coming back at Amazon, like, why are you harassing our users? Here's some kind of countersuit or something like that.
Yep.
For harassment of users on their platform or something. So it's, and it makes me think about too, Amazon's kind of like what they did with the Vine reviews, right? No more, paid reviews. You got to do it through us instead. You got to pay us to do the reviews.
Yep.
they also have the influencer platform in Amazon. And as a seller, I can go into a page. I can't remember the name of it right now, but you can go into it and say, I'm going to give a 50% affiliate commission, and I'm willing to pay out $5,000 to get reviews of my product for influencers to do reviews and post them on Amazon for
Amazon
me.
Vine.
Well, Vine is the review thing. I'm talking about the influencer videos that people can make.
Right.
So a brand can go in and say, here's a $5,000 budget. I'll give a 50% commission for every sale that comes through an influencer video. And it encourages influencers to make videos of that product.
Yeah.
How is that not encouraging a positive review? Because if I'm going to give you 50% commission on the sale of a product, you're going to want to encourage someone to buy that product, not
whether you like it or
buy
not.
that product.
Right.
I'm not going to say that's a crappy product because I want you to buy it so I can get the 50% commission. So you're influencing positive influencer videos right there through Amazon's own platform.
Yeah, that's an interesting point because I do know quite a few people who have gotten into the Amazon influencer program and they're actively building their base of, I guess, videos on the platform. And a lot of these guys, the more they do it, like you said, brands contact them and brands will send them product. And maybe they're not explicitly asking for a positive review. I think sometimes they are, but a lot of times they're saying, hey, here's a free product. Please submit a review for us through the Amazon influencer program. And obviously, like you said, that influencer is incentivized to leave a very strong review. Otherwise, they're not going to make any more money on it. And not to mention the fact that these products, a lot of times, these are higher ticket products, $30, $50, $100 price point. Yep. So yeah, the influencer is heavily incentivized to to create a positive review, whether they're asked for it or not, and whether they truly believe that or not.
Yeah, it's all around. I mean, if you're getting paid by affiliate commissions, obviously you want to try to get people to buy the product that you're reviewing. So you're going to be less likely to talk about the bad stuff than the good stuff. I consider myself a relatively moral person. So everything I promote, I don't do it unless I have used it and I like it, or I know a lot of other people who like it and that it's good. But not everybody's like that. And there's a lot of people, especially if you're making all your money from being an influencer, you're going to have a lot of incentive to just post positive reviews. So you get more companies contacting you and paying you to do more reviews. Yep.
Yeah. So I was able to find not the law, but in this short amount of time, there's something called the FTC Act. And I put a link in our private chat here that it actually answers the questions. And just one of the ones that I'm looking at right now, it says, I'm a blogger. I heard that every time I mention a product on my blog, I have to say whether I got it for free or paid for it myself. Is that true? It says, no. If you mention a product you paid for yourself, there is an issue. Nor is there an issue if you get the product for free because a store is giving out free samples to its customers. The FTC is only concerned about endorsements that are made on behalf of a sponsoring advertiser. For example, an endorsement would be covered by the FTC Act if an advertiser or someone working for an advertiser pays you or gives you something of value to mention a product. If you receive free products or other perks with the expectation that you'll promote or discuss the advertiser's products in your blog, you're covered. Bloggers who are part of a network marketing programs where they sign up to receive free products as samples in exchange for writing about them are also covered. So, I'm not seeing the law here, but this is the FTC, which is a government entity, and they're basically saying if you are receiving a product for free or being paid, then you are expected to disclose that.
Yeah.
So
now, Amazon affiliates does require a disclosure. If you're using Amazon affiliate links, they require you to have a disclosure, typically like at the top of the page or very close to the link that it is that you're getting paid for using those links.
Yeah. I mean, in my videos, I just put something down at the bottom, If it's disclosed, it's disclosed.
Yeah, as long as it just says include a clear, simple disclosure statement that identifies you as an Amazon associate. And it must be conspicuous so that
Right.
it's easy.
Can't just
to
be
see
buried in
what
like
you
the
buy.
middle of the description somewhere or something like
Yeah.
that.
Well,
You-
no, if it's in the
like-
middle of the description, that is conspicuous. If you've got
Fair.
eyeballs, you can see it. If you're not blind, you can see it, right?
Yeah, I think the big thing is there that you're not putting it at the bottom of your page in, just off-white color,
Right. So that,
and
yeah,
6
exactly.
font
Yeah.
size or
like
something.
the old days of keyword stuffing in websites. We used to just put every single keyword that had anything to do with it, and we would make it the same color as the background, and then
Right.
rank on page one. But we're
Yeah.
we're
I'm
talking
glad
early
we're
2000s.
beyond those days, so we don't
Yeah,
have to
yeah,
do that anymore,
exactly.
'cause that was so stupid.
Although I have seen it in an Amazon listing, in an HTML, in the A+ content before.
Interesting.
Oh yeah, in the A+,
Not surprising.
there's a lot of people that still recommend that. My Amazon guy and other agencies that in the images you're supposed to stuff keywords in there and stuff.
Well, okay, so
In
in
the alt
images,
text.
that's fine, but
We're
I'm
talking about the
about
background of some of the A+
I'm talking
modules.
about in the A+
Oh, okay.
content, which you
In the
can
actual text.
HTML, the background highlight and like, I'll be damned, look at all those keywords there.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, that makes sense. No,
Yeah.
my Amazon guy doesn't recommend that, but
Yeah,
in the
Yeah.
alt text of the images is where you want to stuff a lot of
Right.
keywords.
yeah, because now
misspelling,
Rufus
stuff like
and
that.
whatever other AI is, they're reading those. I think it's been happening a very long time. I also think that just the little side thing here. I also think that if you're not updating your alt tags and your alt descriptions and images and titling your images with some keywords, I think that's a mistake as well, because that's a key thing when it comes to just basic SEO on websites, is properly titling things and using those alt tags and stuff like that. I think you should be doing that.
For sure. Well, we've just got a few more minutes left, so let's go over this one real quick. So, mastering Amazon success, focus on fundamentals, not hacks. Robert Prime highlights that success on Amazon comes from consistent execution of fundamentals rather than chasing shortcuts or hacks. Top performing sellers focus on inventory management, detailed listing optimization, quality product sourcing, and daily monitoring of PPC and conversions. He points out common mistakes like neglecting underperforming listings and failing to optimize all products, which lead to missed opportunities. Prime emphasizes that patience, data analysis, and marginal improvements are the real key to long-term Amazon success. So not really news necessarily, but I wanted to throw this in there just to try to discourage a little bit from chasing the hacks. And with Amazon nowadays, especially, you really got to focus on growing a real business and building a real consistent business and doing the hard work.
Yep.
Yeah. And the fact that, and I think it's good to discuss things like this, but the fact that we even have to discuss this in general is kind of a joke, right? Because basically what this guy's saying is, hey, run a legitimate business, market correctly, source good products, provide good customer, like just do things that a normal, good, legitimate business would do, and you'll be good.
People don't. But
Right.
people don't.
Right. And that's the sad part. And people don't, especially on Amazon. As we know, Amazon sellers are notorious for being small time, fly by night, totally unsophisticated, trying to get rich quick. So it matters a lot more in our context, because you don't really see, like, for example, we're obviously all in the retail business. You don't see many brick and mortar retail businesses, even mom and pop shops, open up with terrible products and horrible marketing and terrible customer service and all this stuff.
Right.
They're more serious because there's a higher barrier to entry. I think it's the low barrier to entry that Amazon sellers face and getting started on the platform that attracts a lot of people that are clueless, which necessitates posts like this one.
Yeah.
Right.
So I've been saying this for years myself. Is number one, two things I've been saying for quite some time. One is you've got to have your fundamentals in. That is the platform. That is your basement, the base on which your entire business will be built upon. And if you're building on sand, like what's the
build the house on sand and it washes away, build it on rock, and you're fine. Like something like that.
So there's a movie, Corey. I hate to say this, but you might be too young. But it's called The Life of Brian, and in that,
Yeah, I'm not familiar.
yeah, no, it's all right. But you should watch it. It's a good documentary. It's not a documentary actually. But basically, there's a joke in there like, I built a castle and that one sank into the swamp. So I built another one and that one burned down, fell down, then sank into the swamp. And I built another one, but that one stayed up. You know, it's like if you build your foundation correctly, you have a very strong base from which to build up from, right?
Yep.
So that's number one. Number two is the fact that I genuinely feel, and I fully include myself in this, that Amazon sellers are infants, babies when it comes to like business practices as a whole, right?
Completely agree. Yep.
So, you know, what a general Amazon seller will do is go, oh, if I buy this product, I can sell it over here and make $5. And if I do 500 of those a day, cool, I'm good, right? But they don't understand the principles of marketing, the principles of branding, good imagery, proper, like, do you put the features on the bullet points, or do you put these things that your product solves on the bullet points, right?
Mm-hmm.
How do you communicate to the person that's looking at your product within 2-3 seconds that is going to solve their problem, right? If your problem is stress, right? Do you put a happy person or do you put a super stressed out person to make them their eyeballs stop and go, oh, that's me, right? So, you know, and that's just marketing. And that's just, you know, Kevin King just did a whole thing on the psychology of marketing. And but again, we are babies when it comes to business. So if you can become an Amazon seller, and you can continue to learn, and I would say probably the next logical thing would be to launch a Shopify store, right? If you're going to build a real business.
Mm-hmm.
And there's been a lot of Amazon sellers that launched a Shopify store and failed, and they went, what the heck? Nobody went to my website and bought my product.
Right. We're so spoiled being on Amazon.
Yeah.
Yeah. You have to learn about funnels. And actually that's one of the things that I want to help resolve in our space is get people to become better business and brand builders. And I won't get into any of the details of that, but I'm working on something where I'm going to bring a system in place where they can manage their customers, their marketing, their website, their all that stuff, you know, just help them do that because I think it needs to happen. Like today's the day. This 2025 is the year where we have to become more sophisticated business people. Otherwise, Amazon's going to push us out and we're going to just fail and have to go and move on to something else in life.
Yep. And that's part of what they're getting to, right? They want us to be professional. They're not doing it in the best way all the time.
Mm-hmm.
But, you know, everything they do is to try to lift up the professionals and push
Or
down
Chinese.
the ones that are not, unless you're from China, I guess. That exactly as we talked about. But yeah, I mean, we can end it here, but it's just, you got to focus on the basics. It doesn't mean don't look at the hacks, because sometimes those hacks end up becoming the norm in the future.
Right.
But don't chase them. Focus on the basics, the fundamentals, build your business. Yeah, learn about the hacks, try them out, see if they work. But you got to focus on the basics and keep growing a business.
Yeah. I mean, I would say by all means, chase the hacks if your fundamentals are in place, if your basics are in place, right? Yeah. Then you're just looking for an edge, right? Yeah. And by the way, I put my link to my blog post on everything that I've been able, well, a lot of what I've been able to gather on the Amazon review algorithm. If you want to throw that out there.
Yeah,
I'll put it on my post on LinkedIn, but a lot of it's from Amazon. Some of it is observed and some of it's conjecture, but I'm fairly convinced that I'm accurate in what I've said there.
Okay. Yeah, I just threw it on mine so people can take a look at it. But yeah, it's keep building the business, everybody out there. If you're on Amazon, focus on building your business. Don't be focusing on all the get rich quick nonsense that's out there. Those days are long gone if they were ever.
If they were ever here, and maybe like 12 years ago, which was 5 years before I started selling, right? I missed the boat starting in 2017 of the get rich any time less than 3-year time frame, right?
For sure. Even the people who got rich were forced to figure out business.
Right.
Yeah. Well, I would say the get rich quick by selling shit products is gone only to the degree that Amazon decided to do it themselves.
That's true. Amazon's true. If anybody's going to make money selling shit products, it's going to be us. That's right. Like that's basically what they said.
Yep.
That's funny. All right, guys. Corey, Dana, this has been a lot of fun. Everybody out there watching, I appreciate you joining the Amazon Seller School live here. Join us next Friday. Every Friday we jump on here 11 a.m. Eastern to go over the news. So until next time, everybody, have an awesome one and happy selling.